I am Homer, the poet whose verses have carried the weight of centuries, shaping the minds and hearts of mortals long after I myself have passed into legend. Though little remains of my tangible life, no scrolls in my hand, no tomb in my name, my voice lingers on in the epics that have become timeless. Through the rhythms of the Iliad and the Odyssey, I speak to you not from a city or kingdom, but from the stories I breathed into the world. I was born, though even this fact is veiled in the fog of antiquity, in the 8th century BCE, or perhaps earlier, in a time when Greece was yet in its youth, an era before the philosophers, the scientists, and the empire builders would leave their indelible marks. The precise place of my birth has been the subject of endless debate. Some say Smyrna, others Chios, or perhaps Ithaca, the fabled home of Odysseus himself. In truth, I was a man of no fixed place. I traveled, reciting my tales across the Greek world, wherever listeners were eager to hear. It is said that I was blind, though again, who can say for certain? If I was, it matters little, for the eyes of my mind were sharp. Through the vivid images conjured by the power of song and speech, I saw the faces of the gods, the fierce gleam of Achilles' armor, and the perilous cliffs upon which Odysseus' ship was wrecked. Whether my actual eyes could see these things is of little consequence. My vision, the vision that has survived, was one of spirit, not flesh. But let me not dwell on the uncertainties of my life, for it is the certainty of my creations that matters now. My first achievement, one that still reverberates through time, was the Iliad, a tale not just of war, but of the very nature of human existence. In this, I drew upon the great event that, in our time, we believed shaped the world, the Trojan War. Ah, the mighty Troy, whose walls were thought impregnable, but which fell to the cunning of the Greeks after a siege that lasted 10 long years. I wove together the rage of Achilles, the valor of Hector, the wisdom of Nestor, and the tragedy of Priam, who lost everything to the whims of fate and gods. My epic was not just a retelling of a historical event, it was a mirror to the human soul. I sought to capture the paradoxes of war, the glory and the destruction, the courage and the terror, the honor and the bloodshed. In Achilles, the greatest of the Greek warriors, I created a man torn between rage and destiny, a hero who knew that glory would be his, but at the cost of a short and tragic life. His wrath, born from a slight to his honor, brings ruin to friend and foe alike. Yet even in his moments of darkest rage, there is a humanity that runs through him, a longing for something beyond the battlefield. The Iliad was my ode to human strength and fragility, to the fleeting nature of glory, and to the enduring presence of sorrow. After the Iliad, I turned my attention to a different kind of journey. While the Trojan War was a conflict between men and gods on the grandest scale, the Odyssey was a tale of endurance and cunning. In Odysseus, I created a hero unlike Achilles. Where Achilles was a man of action and physical might, Odysseus was a man of wit and guile, whose greatest weapon was his mind. His journey home from Troy, beset by the wrath of Poseidon and the temptations of the mystical, is more than a story of travel. It is an exploration of the struggles of life itself. For 10 years he wandered, yearning for the comforts of home, for his wife Penelope, who awaited him with unwavering faith, and for his son Telemachus, who grew into manhood in his absence. I filled the Odyssey with wondrous creatures and perilous challenges. The Cyclops, whose single eye Odysseus blinds with clever deceit. The Sirens, whose songs lure sailors to their doom. The sorceress Circe, who transforms men into beasts, and Scylla and Charybdis, those twin dangers between which Odysseus must carefully steer his ship. Through it all, Odysseus remains steadfast, though his patience is sorely tested. His intellect, his resourcefulness, and his desire to return to Ithaca are what ultimately see him through. And it is a victory not just over external foes, but over the weaknesses of the human spirit itself. But I did not create these epics merely to entertain. My intent was to preserve the moral and cultural codes of my people, to express the beliefs, values, and fears of a civilization that was as much defined by its past as it was uncertain of its future. In the Iliad, I showed the devastating consequences of unchecked pride and anger, the fleeting nature of glory, and the way fate rules the lives of men, no matter how strong or noble they may be. In the Odyssey, I revealed the importance of cunning, perseverance, and the desire for home and peace after the chaos of war. My words were not my own alone. I was but the conduit through which the stories of gods and men passed. The Greeks, even in my time, were a people of oral tradition. Storytellers like me, poets, bards, singers, preserved our histories and our beliefs in the only way we knew how, through performance. I did not write these epics, not as you would imagine with pen and ink, for writing was a rare and sacred skill in my time. Instead, I sang them, in the halls of kings and in the marketplaces of towns, accompanied by the simple music of the lyre. The rhythm of the meter, the hexameter that has become synonymous with epic poetry, was my constant companion. Each line, each beat was carefully chosen, for this was how memory was shaped, and how the tales could be passed down, generation after generation. In the centuries that followed my life, the Greeks, and later the Romans, immortalized me as the father of Western literature. They turned my oral recitations into written texts, revered by scholars and philosophers alike. Plato would debate the moral lessons of my epics, while Aristotle would dissect the structure of my narrative, hailing the unity of action in the Iliad as the pinnacle of dramatic storytelling. My influence spread far beyond the bounds of Greece, touching the far corners of the ancient world and shaping the art, literature, and culture of civilizations to come. But what of me, Homer, the man? Who am I, beyond the poems I left behind? Some say I was a simple bard, wandering from place to place. Others suggest I was a member of the elite, educated in the lore of the gods and the histories of men. Still others claim I was not one man, but many, that Homer is a name that represents a tradition of poets rather than an individual. The truth? It may never be known, and perhaps that is as it should be. For in the end, it is not Homer the man that matters, but the stories, the lessons, the words that have outlived my mortal life. I am Homer, and though I no longer walk the earth, my voice remains. It echoes in the verses of poets, in the stories told around campfires, in the teachings of philosophers, and in the minds of all who dare to dream of adventure, of heroism, of loss, and of home. My epics are more than just tales of war and wandering. They are the foundation of what it means to be human. As long as people listen to the sound of ancient songs, I will live on.